So, to understand Luzon, you have to throw out your normal map. Seriously, delete it from your brain for a second. I want you to imagine the Earth is the size of a basketball, okay? Now, imagine you wrap your hands around that basketball and you just squeeze. What happens to the skin of the ball? It doesn't break cleanly, right? It wrinkles, it buckles, it gets all weird and lumpy. That lumpy, wrinkled mess, that is the Philippine Mobile Belt. It's not a solid rock, it's a stress fracture that got out of hand. And Luzon is right in the middle of the worst part of that squeeze. Geologists call it a collision zone, which is just a fancy scientific way of saying a massive train wreck that takes millions of years to finish. See, for the longest time, scientists were looking at the shape of Luzon, specifically that weird kink in the coastline, where the head of the island sort of bends away from the body. And they were like, why is it bent like that? The answer? Something huge hit it, and it's still hitting it. Lurking underwater just off the coast of Aurora and Isabela is a beast called the Benham Rise, or properly, the Philippine Rise. It's an extinct volcanic ridge the size of Greece. Yeah, the size of Greece just sitting there underwater. And here is the kicker. It's too fat to sink. Usually, ocean rocks dive under the land, subduction, right? But Benham Rise is this thick, buoyant chunk of crust. It's like trying to flush a basketball down a toilet. It won't go down. So instead, it plowed into Luzon and literally bent the island's geography. And this isn't just ancient history, it's modern geopolitics. Because this massive underwater plateau is technically connected to Luzon's geology, the United Nations declared it part of the Philippines' extended continental shelf. That means the country is actually way bigger than it looks on Google Maps. We have this massive underwater territory that is rich in biodiversity and minerals, all because a piece of the Earth refused to sink 20 million years ago. Speaking of flushing things down toilets, let's pivot to something a little grosser, but necessary to understand the landscape. We have this high-level geology, right? But on the ground level, this geography creates some serious problems. Take Metro Manila. It sits on a floodplain created by these same tectonic forces, and because of the way the land settled, we have the Pasig River. It used to be this beautiful artery of the city, right? But now, scientists and locals, and I'm not making this up, literally referred to it as the toilet bowl of Metro Manila. It's not just a metaphor for pollution, it's a hydrological reality. The gradient, the slope between Laguna de Bay and Manila Bay, is so shallow that the flush doesn't work. When the tide comes in, the river flows backwards. It creates this oscillating anoxic mess where the water just sits there. It's a geological trap. So you have this massive island formed by violent collisions, creating these basins that trap water, trap people, and unfortunately, trap waste. It's the dark side of the geology. But wait, it gets weirder. Luzon didn't just sit there and get hit by Benham Rise. It spun around. Paleomagnetism, which is basically studying the magnetic direction of old rocks, tells us that Luzon has rotated counterclockwise over millions of years. Imagine the island doing a slow-motion pirouette. This rotation is actually what opened up the Manila Trench. It's like the island was trying to twist away from the collision, but it just ended up creating more fault lines. And speaking of the Manila Trench, this is the monster hiding in the closet. Running down the west side of Luzon is this massive subduction zone where the seafloor is diving under the island. It's deep, it's quiet, and it's dangerous. Geologists warn that this trench is fully capable of generating a massive magnitude earthquake, the big one. It's the engine that built the volcanoes, but it's also the biggest threat to the civilization living on top of it. So when you stand in Manila or Baguio, You aren't standing on solid ground. You are standing on a jenga tower that is constantly being poked by tectonic fingers. We have the Philippine Sea Plate pushing from the east, the Eurasian Plate diving from the west, and the Philippine Fault slicing right down the middle. It's a miracle the whole thing hasn't just crumbled into the sea. But that instability, that's exactly what makes the island so rich in minerals and so dangerous. Okay, before we get to the hobbits, yes, I said hobbits, I want to ask you guys something. Every place has its local legends about why a mountain is shaped that way, or why a lake exists. In the Philippines, we have giants fighting, throwing rocks at each other. What's the origin story myth from your hometown? Drop it in the comments. I read all of them, and honestly, sometimes the myths make more sense than the plate tectonics. Alright, let's rewind the clock. Way back. We used to think humans arrived in the Philippines maybe 30,000, 40,000 years ago. Then in 2014, some researchers in Kalinga, northern Luzon, found something that basically broke the timeline. They found a rhinoceros skeleton, a 75% complete extinct rhino. But that wasn't the weird part. The weird part was that the rhino had been butchered. We're talking distinct cut marks on the ribs where someone used a stone tool to slice off the meat. We're talking percussion marks on the arm bones where someone smashed them open to get the marrow. It was a prehistoric barbecue. But here's the problem. When they dated the sediment using electron spin resonance, it came back as 709,000 years old. That is insane. That's 10 times older than we thought humans were there. Who the heck was butchering rhinos in Luzon 700,000 years ago? We weren't even us yet. This mystery leads us to Callao Cave in Cagayan. In 2007 and later in 2011, archaeologists found these tiny teeth and foot bones. They looked human, but wrong. The teeth were super small, the roots were primitive, and the foot bone, the third metatarsal, it was curved. Now, why would a human have a curved foot bone? Because they were climbing trees. These guys, who we now call Homo luzonensis, were living in Luzon around 50,000 to 67,000 years ago. But they had features that looked like Australopithecus, creatures that lived in Africa millions of years ago. It suggests that once they got to Luzon, they were isolated. And just like animals on islands tend to shrink, it's called Island Dwarfism, these humans shrank. They adapted to the rainforest. They climbed trees to escape predators or find food. But the biggest brain twister is this. How did they get there? Luzon has always been an island. Even during the Ice Ages, when sea levels were low, there was deep ocean separating it from the mainland. They had to cross open water. Did Homo erectus build rafts 700,000 years ago? Did a tsunami wash a pregnant female onto the shore on a log? We don't know. But Homo luzonensis proves that the history of humans in the Philippines is way deeper and stranger than we thought. Okay, let's jump from tiny humans to massive geological pranks. If you go south of Manila, you find Taal Volcano, and Taal is famous for being a geography tongue twister. It is an island, Luzon, that has a lake, Taal Lake, that has an island in that lake, Volcano Island, which, until recently, had a tiny island in it, called Vulcan Point. It's basically the geological version of the movie Inception. But don't let the Inception meme fool you. That lake isn't a lake, it's a scar. It's a massive caldera formed by prehistoric mega eruptions. And Volcano Island? That's just the current vent. This thing is active. In January 2020, it erupted out of nowhere, sending ash all the way to Manila. It dried up the crater lake and changed the landscape overnight. It's a reminder that beauty in Luzon usually comes from violence. Speaking of violence, let's jump to something many of you might actually remember, or your parents do. Let's talk about the sky turning black. Luzon is home to the Zambales Mountains, and sitting there quiet as a mouse for 500 years was Mount Pinatubo. It was so quiet people forgot it was a volcano. The US military even built a massive base, Clark Air Base, right next to it. Oops. On June 15, 1991, Pinatubo decided to wake up, and it didn't just burp, it screamed. It was the second largest volcanic eruption of the 20th century. But it wasn't just the ash that was the problem, it was the timing. A typhoon, Typhoon Yunya, was passing directly over the volcano at the exact same time. Ash plus typhoon rain equals concrete. Survivors talk about mud rain. Imagine it raining wet cement from the sky. It was heavy. It collapsed roofs, destroyed hospitals, and flattened entire towns. It turned day into absolute night. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face at noon. It was apocalyptic. And the horror didn't stop when the eruption ended. For years afterwards, every time it rained, that loose ash turned into lahar, a raging river of hot mud with the consistency of wet cement. It buried towns like Bacolor in Pampanga. There are churches there that are half buried. You literally walk in through the second-story window. The map of central Luzon was redrawn not by politicians, but by mud. But the scariest part, the effects didn't stop in Luzon. Pinatubo injected about 20 million tons of sulfuric dioxide straight into the stratosphere. That gas spread out and formed a giant layer of sulfuric acid aerosols. Think of it like a giant pair of sunglasses for the Earth. It reflected sunlight back into space. For the next 3 years, the average temperature of the entire planet dropped by half a degree Celsius. Luzon literally cooled the world. It messed with the ozone layer. It changed monsoon patterns. It arguably paused global warming for a hot minute. And today, scientists study Pinatubo to see if we can geoengineer the climate. That mountain in Zambales is basically the most important climate change case study in history. So, what is Luzon? It's not just an island. It's a crash site where an underwater continent is stuck in the doorframe. It's an evolutionary laboratory where humans shrank to survive. And it's a geological cannon capable of changing the weather in New York or London. This isn't just land, it's a character in the story of the planet. When we talk about the Philippines, we often talk about resilience, and usually we mean the people. But look at the land itself. It has been smashed, bent, buried in ash, flooded by lahar, and shaken by trenches, and it's still standing. The Colossus of the North isn't a static piece of rock, it's a survivor. But if you think Luzon is intense, wait until we head south. There's an island that is actually 2 islands smashed together. A place so rugged that the Spanish Empire spent 300 years trying to conquer it and failed. We're talking about the land of promise, the land of brass cannons and ancient fortresses. Next time, we are taking on Mindanao. If you want to see that episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the upload. And seriously, check out the comment section. I want to hear your local myths, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.